Today's lesson on life is the single life. Today we're going to be talking about the single life, sex, dating, the fun of dating, the struggles. So welcome to the show, Miss Imani Hines, Mr. James Jones, and Miss Susie Young. I want to read you a quote because I want to hear what you guys really think. And I want you to be honest. I want you to be real with me, okay? I read this quote. It says, single is not a status. It is a word that describes a person who is strong enough to live and enjoy life without depending on others. What are your thoughts about the single life in this quote?
Yeah, I agree with it as well. I think the single life is about trusting the process, understanding and making the best out of that time period.
Okay, wonderful.
So I think that's the best way to look at it, make the best out of it.
Okay, I like that. Okay.
I'll piggyback off what she said. I totally agree. It is about making the best of it.
Okay.
Because we might not always aspire to that higher apex of being married.
Okay.
And so then a single person might find themselves disappointed being absolutely single when it's a thrill to actually be single.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. James, you want to add anything?
I just want to say you learn more when you're by yourself.
Okay.
And then, you know, whatever you gain from being by yourself, you can spread towards your mate, because everybody got to come with something.
Exactly. You know? And I love, because this topic is about embracing being single, because we know that when people think about single, a lot of times it comes with a little bit of guilt. People make you feel bad for being single. And I know that, you know, for some people, a lot of people want to get married, and we'll get there. But at the time being, it's important to embrace the single life, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So someone please help me understand these two things. We have something called hooking up that's happening these days, and we have friends with benefits. What's the difference?
Well, hooking up to me is definitely like you meet somebody, you're out at a bar, maybe a club or a restaurant, who knows, could be at a wine festival, and they walk up and you know, they're attracted to you, and you know, to me, usually it's a physical attraction. It's not just, oh, I want to take you on a date. It's like, I'm trying to hook up, like, today, later on.
Okay.
It's not something I necessarily agree with, but as a young adult, I see it a lot.
Exactly.
And the friends with benefits thing, it's like you get that one friend that you trust enough to just, hey, we're just going to do this thing together.
Okay.
Sex, you know, we have our stipulations.
Okay.
And that's it. So that's how I see it.
So hooking up, sex, okay, no commitment, and then friends with benefits, committed person, we don't have sex, we have an understanding.
But the friends with benefits, that is a definite guarantee. It's something more than I like you and we going to, you know, possibly get laid. That's a definite.
Hooking up, once again, I always say both parties involved. It's no one party that just say, oh, I just want to have sex.
Okay.
Both parties do it.
Okay.
Remember, you're going for the need. And satisfy my need, and I'm gonna do what I have to do.
Okay.
The friends with benefits, that can go anyway. I say that because I'm learning more so now. I can be a benefit to someone to help them as far as health. And I'm not trying to take away from the whole set, but the benefits thing can be a real thing. It's not just sex or taking you out to dinner or... Okay,
so it could be friends with benefits meaning you have someone to go to something like a play or something, or hang out with or something like that. It doesn't have to just be physical. That's a nice way of looking at it. So has the concept of waiting to have sex until marriage, do you feel like it has lost some of its value?
But I definitely agree that it is something, it should be valued, but people are no longer keeping that value in place because of different things.
Which brings me to this idea of cohabitation. Now that's my formal name, okay? Now people, you know, old school would say shacking up. You know, I know everybody know about shacking up. And so cohabitation is when you live together to see how it's going to be, so that you can enjoy sort of the benefits of being in a relationship without the commitment, to see if you want to try it on. So how do you guys feel about that? And do you feel like it has increased you know, in your time that you've been alive, and around, and your friends, not just for yourself, but, you know, think friends, age groups, those type of things?
Well, I would have to say marriage in itself has not dwindled. People are still getting married, but the value of marriage has, people don't respect it as much. So I feel like a lot of people are turning to shacking up and they're just like, well, we're going to live together and see where it goes. But then the reality of it is, it's kind of unsafe because it's like, you don't know if you're going to be with this person. Now, if you break up, you're having to stay in this place with them. And you're like, I can't even go home and live my life and be single because he's still there or she's still there. So I just feel like people should be careful with it. I would only do it if I was maybe engaged and maybe right before marriage you decided to move in, but no.
Beautiful, good job. Okay, any other comments?
I just want to add, it's almost like a safe zone, and you have to view the pros and cons of doing something like that. I guess people shock up because they feel like, oh, if we actually get married and I never stayed with you, then what I have to look at then? What's the risk that I'll be taking at that point? But it's like a safe zone for some people, and people comfortable in that area.
Cohabitating with someone, what we know from the research, it doesn't add to relationships, and actually a lot of those people don't get married. Research tells us there are more men than women. I gotta go through this real quick, and I want to know how you guys feel about this and if it's impacting sort of how you see things. Ladies, do you believe there's a shortage of good men? Yes or no? Go ahead and be honest.
I believe
Susie,
that
I know you will.
I believe that good men are out there, but I feel like a lot of them are confused, and that's the term I'm going to use, confused.
Okay.
And they need a little more. They need something.
Okay.
We can talk about that later. But I definitely feel like good men are there, but just as men are confused, women are too. So I'm not going to play them,
Okay, very good. I like to keep it fair. Okay. Do you think that, I think a lot of times, a lot of women do believe that a good man is hard to find. In fact, I wrote a book about it. Okay, a good man is hard to find. Or is he? Because I personally believe that that's not necessarily true. However, do you think that this makes women do desperate things?
Yes.
It can.
And you probably heard me say, I don't like that. I don't like that, because when you have that sort of idea, it causes you to do other things. I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but let me go over here to James. Do you believe that there is a plethora of women?
In my eyes, yes. I take the two places where I went to school. I was like the only male in the classroom in like 3 or 4 classes. I was the only male. Got to grad school, same thing. I was the only male in the class. And
sitting at the table between these 2 beautiful women.
Here you go again.
Well, I should say 3.
And I do see females doing drastic things to be hooked up with someone or be with a mate because they notice that their friends getting married and they want the same thing. I'm like, oh, there you go.
Yeah. I want you guys to think for a second. I want our audience to think about this too, because in my books I talk about this. I think that idea that statistics tells us that there's more men in the world, that somehow women get to be more desperate. So now they're messing with this man and this man and this man. They're trying to get married. The time's running out. They're here, there, and everywhere, just doing crazy, neurotic things. But at the same time, men are affected also, but men don't realize it. Do you guys, anybody want to take a guess or a stab at how this allows men to react to women and to relationships? Go ahead, Imani. Take your time.
I know for me, I think men don't feel like they have to work for anything anymore, because women just, like you said, platter, there you go. Some women, they just put it out there. So it's like that woman that has a standard, they're looking at you like, oh, why I gotta climb to the top of the tree when I can just dig down here and get the apple at the ground? And it's sad that so many women don't see that that's what they're doing to the men. And the men are confused and they're like, I'm not putting in work for you. I can just get her over there. But then they realize, oh, maybe I should have climbed to the top.
Okay.
So they'll turn around, Dr. Perry, and if they really want you, then they'll try to bring you down to their standards.
Okay.
And then that's where some of us singles will start to compromise who we are.
Yes. I wish we had more time to talk about this, because this is the stuff I love to talk about. What I want you guys, I thank you so much for sharing sort of everything that you have, but because I want to change this statistic, because I want people to know that what this does to us, this kind of thinking, what it does to affect relationships long term. It affects how we see ourselves as men, as women, and then the relationship, which is key to me, because if you have those type of thoughts, then how are you going to treat your mate even when you're in a committed relationship if you feel like, oh, well, there's plenty of women, or or I got to hold on to this man so tight that I can't let him go because I may never get another one. That kind of thing can ruin relationships. And so anything else you want to add about the single life, or any encouragement that you would add to being single? And really one question I wanted to ask you guys is, how can someone embrace and love their single life?
I would say it comes with actually taking your time.
Okay.
And patience, of course, is a virtue.
Yes.
And with men, women, it's very difficult to understand how we feel about ourselves, how we're going to feel about each other and the relationship. But if I'm starting to dial back even in my own life.
Okay.
Taking my time to assess what I want, my needs, and if I'm able to coexist with the person in a relationship and making it long term.
Okay, beautiful. Anything else?
I think for me, embracing the single life is more like I said in the beginning, trusting the process and trusting God to know that if that's what He has for me, then it's going to happen that way. But while I'm single, I'm focusing on my career, focusing on what I can do for myself to better myself. And I feel like that's what's made the journey for me easier.
Good, I love that. James?
And I just want to end with, I say you put out the vows that you want to come back to you.
And take risk. Don't be afraid to apply for that job. Don't be afraid to do something new. Go on that trip by yourself. Don't be afraid to live your life and step out of your comfort zone. Apply for that job. Take the risk and live your life, and stop waiting for someone to add to your life. You are enough. Thank you so much for watching. It's Life Changing. We'll be right back. Time for our community resources. I have a very special guest that I want to highlight today, Mr. Early Jackson. Welcome, Mr. Early Jackson.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here. I'm excited.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to hear more about this book. He also has some really interesting information about the single life, which is our topic for this show. And so he's written this great book. And so I want him to share a little bit about this book. And you're going to love the title. So go ahead and tell them a little bit about this wonderful book that you've written.
Okay, so I'll tell you the story, then I'll
Okay,
give the
go
title.
ahead.
2 years ago, I was talking to my daughter who just turned 18 and started college. And we were joking
You're so young.
Well, I exfoliate, so, it's good. But we were talking about relationships, and we were joking about Disney and how Disney depicts and gives this imagery for relationships, especially for young girls.
Okay.
And she made a comment. She said, I would never date a guy like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
And I'm like, come on, sweetie, it was a cartoon. She said, no, but he locked her in a room, he yelled at her. What I was taught, that's abuse. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. So I wrote a couple of articles called The Fairy Tale Relationship Syndrome. And it got so much momentum that I ended up comprising the book called The Modern Princess, a 21st century guide to fairy tale relationships. And it highlights three characters that every girl knows. It highlights Belle from Beauty and the Beast, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, and Snow White from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Interesting.
Belle is the girl who's addicted to the guy that's the bad boy.
Okay.
She wants to change him. She wants to get him and turn him into the thing that she wants to be able to put on her arm and take to around her friends. But the reality is that's animated. In real life, you don't always get to change the bad boy.
Exactly.
Sometimes you waste 10, 15 years of your life trying to change someone.
Exactly.
Now, Dorothy's a little different. She's the girl that, and we all know girls like this, women, who are addicted to men with potential.
Yes.
And interestingly,
she's gonna get there.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, she wouldn't have ended up in the storm if she hadn't chased the dog. Now, come on, Dr. Perry. We know
I heard
women,
that. I got that. You guys get that? Chase the dog? Okay, go ahead.
We know women who ended up in financial storms, relationship storms, and physical storms because they were chasing the dog.
Wow.
But along her journey, she's trying to get to this wizard because in her mind, if I get there, I'll be whole, I'll be complete. But then she picks up a scarecrow with no brain. She picks up a tin man with no heart. She picks up a lion with no courage. So he looks good, he looks the part, but he doesn't have a job. He doesn't treat her well. So she's addicted to these half men. And then, of course, there's Snow White.
Okay.
Now, Snow White's a little different because she's the girl that'll meet a guy on Monday, and by Friday, she's moved him in, she's dressed him, she's got him a new wardrobe. She's going to help him complete his job assignments because she's addicted to mothering men. And and notice the men she's always connected to. She's the sleepy, dopey.
Don't start that. Okay, wow.
And the interesting thing is, in algebra, a zero has no value. It's a placeholder. So she's addicted to zeros. And interestingly enough, a zero just likes to be in the parentheses.
Wow.
So I tell women, you got to watch. who you let in your parentheses because they're just holding a space.
You hear that? Let in your parentheses.
and you can't move someone in until that equation is fixed and that zero is moved out.
Okay.
So you have to watch the men that want to be in your life as a placeholder because they just want to occupy your time, but they're not ready for commitment. So the book, in each section, there's something called Tiara Talk. There's study questions.
Okay.
And I've literally had women email me and say, I just cursed you out, by the way, and threw the book across the room. And then they'll email me again and say, you know what, I picked it up and finished it, and it's changing my life.
Good.
So there's a ton of information in there, and I think that every woman is born a princess. But dating is a contact sport, and you have to learn the strategies in order to be a successful dater because nothing just happens.
Thank you so much, Mr. Early Jackson, for being on the show. Give him another round of applause. Love it. Good stuff. Please make sure you check out his book. You go to his website and take advantage of the resources that he and his wife have to offer to you. That's what we're trying to do, pull community resources in. Also want to encourage you to continue to go to my website with the information. If you'd like to schedule an appointment for life, relationship, or career coaching with me, feel free to do so, or you can call me at 1-877-789-3201. God bless you, and thank you so much for joining us on It's Life Changing.